Welcome back, I'm Captain Xavier, and today we're going to be reviewing LighTake's suction cup mega darts that they sent me to review. I'm going to be testing them out of a variety of mega blasters. I think I've got pretty much everything but the Cyclone Shock. I'm probably missing one or two, and you guys will crucify me in the comments for it. But some of these are stock and some of them are modified. My Roto Fury is, of course, K26'd. My Hot Shock is K26'd, but I believe the rest of these are all stock. I do not have a Cyclone Shock because the only two that I had in my shop are currently in small parts being modded, and I didn't want to throw it back together just for this. But this should give us a vague idea of how well they perform compared to regular Mega Darts. I have a couple of theories, but we're gonna go take it out to the shooting range and find out. Alright, we are here in my alley preparing for some ammo comparison tests and reviews. Hopefully the neighbor's dogs don't object too much. Here's the spread of what is getting tested, though they will each be in their own videos. We've got Mega, Rival, and Vortex. Should be a lot of fun. I don't know about you, but that's just a lovely spread. Let's do this thing. Up first, we have a stock Big Shock firing first the official Nerf ammo. And now the LighTake ammo. Aha! And this is one potential issue that I have heard about and now I have seen. The LighTake ammo is not as thick, and so if it's a modified blaster and still has its AR in, then it will not seal. The AR will just push it back out. So, one potential flaw with it. Now we have my K26 Hot Shock firing first Nerf ammo. And now LighTake ammo. So, roughly the same there, really. Ranges are a bit all over the place because I'm firing kind of at a weird angle to get it into frame and to hit the chronometer and all of that, but we'll go into ranges a little bit later. I have annoyed the neighbor's dogs. Hopefully, I'll be able to get something done. Up next, we have a stock Mega Magnus firing the standard Nerf. Again, roughly the same. I did, when I ran this in a war using the off-brand, the LighTake, I did run into issues with them actually sliding out of the barrel. Only one, though, and so far I've only had one of these ones that seems to be doing that, so it may be just an outlier. Next, we have the Dual Strike firing standard Nerf. Stock. Not having a problem with it popping them out on this one. I think the barrel's a little bit tighter than it was on the Big Shock, so that might have something to do with it. I might just have not have the one bad round here either, so let's see. Again, readings are about the same. Next, we have the Centurion, first firing standard Nerf. And now, LighTake. So, again, numbers are similar. Ranges are horrific, though. I see why people give this thing grief. And last, but certainly not least, we have my K26 Roto Fury. Firing standard. And now, LighTake. Interesting. The LighTake ammo seems to get a much higher FPS. Who knew? So there's the chrono numbers. Now we're going to look at range and accuracy as best we can. Stock Big Shock firing standard. And LighTake. All right, grouping wasn't bad, but I was only getting about 30 feet with the LighTake and about 40 feet with standard Nerf. All right, now my K26 Hot Shock. All right, this time they had about the same ranges, both coming in at around 50 feet, with one of the Nerf ones soaring out to 75 feet, but I think that was an outlier. But interestingly, the LighTake rounds had much better consistency. They had a much tighter grouping and didn't deviate as much, so that may have to do with the fact that they have suction cup heads instead of the Whistler heads. It could have been a fluke, who knows? Let's continue. Now the Magnus. All right, once again, they both came in at about 50 feet, but again, I would argue that the LighTake rounds appeared to have a more stable flight path, so take that for what it's worth. Now the dual strike. All right, this time the LighTake came in at about 45 feet, whereas the Nerf darts were coming in at about 55 feet. But once again, I would argue that the LighTake definitely appeared to have a more stable flight pattern. There was just a mild fender bender right behind me. Hopefully I don't get subpoenaed. All right, the Centurion. Yep. No consistency whatsoever. They both had a grouping at 35 feet and at 55 feet, and they both had erratic flight patterns. I'm starting to understand why the Centurion gets so much grief, which is a shame because it's just so much fun to fire with that huge priming and that recoil and all of that. All right, onward. All right, finally my K26 Roto Fury. Oof. All right, and finally, with this one, the LighTake came in at about 60, and the regulars were coming in at about 50, and again, LighTake had the better flight pattern, so there you have it. Well, clearly my patron deities have limited pull over the weather in this area, which isn't surprising. They're all old European gods. I really should look into the local weather gods if I want to, have any real sway. But I managed to get the mega video testings filmed before the downpour came back, as you can hear. And I was actually kind of surprised by the results. FPS were about the same across the board. There was a little bit of deviation here and there. Obviously the stock Big Shock had the least, but all the rest of them were really fairly close. There weren't anywhere it was like jumping up to 100 or anything like that, which isn't surprising with Mega. Even the modified one, the K26 ones, didn't really make that big of a difference. Really, the advantages that the modifications I made to this is that I can fire any kind of ammo with it with the right adapters. But power-wise, it didn't really do all that much. But what I did see that I was actually kind of surprised and pleased by was the consistency from the LighTake ammo. They are just a little bit smaller. You can actually see it. And so they don't get quite as tight a fit in some barrels, and if they still have the AR, it will push some of them out. You could do the old tape mod that we used to do way back in the day of streamlines that I don't hear people doing much anymore to get a better dart seal. But it was only a couple of the ones that had problems, and they only really had problems in the Big Shock. I do recall having issues with it in the Magnus, having a dart just fall out. Definitely don't think you'd have that problem in either of these guns. So it might just be a matter of testing the ones and figuring out which ones are the worst and using the good ones. But I believe that the increase in accuracy and consistency of fire is worth a little extra work to make these work, because they definitely flew much, much straighter than the Whistlers, the Elite, the Mega Whistlers. So that's kind of up to you whether you think that is worth it. Ranges were generally actually fairly comparable. A couple of times these were more, a couple of times these were less. But they were definitely more consistent out of everything except the Centurion, which will surprise no one. That one, that's just a tragedy of design. But I'm actually very pleased with them. I will probably actually start using them. I will, like I said, go through and vet the ones that have the least barrel fits, because the thing that I most commonly use Mega with is my War Strifle has an underslung Magnus, and I would like to have that added consistency in fire as long as they're not going to fall out of the barrel. So there you have it. That's my review of LighTake's Mega Darts. I will have the link to that down in the description. And once the rain stops again, I will get to the Rival and the Vortex Blasters. Stay tuned for that, and thank you for watching.